Hi, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Any
Yeah.
better? Okay, awesome. All right. So hold on. So let me see. We've got um our live stream has started. Um Let me go ahead just waiting on. I see Bronson is here, but we can go ahead and get started here in a second. Um let's go ahead and get started with you playing, and then if Bronson comes in, we can move to his performance too, okay?
Okay.
All right. So what will you be playing for us?
Turkish March.
Oh, all right. And just make sure that you've got your original sound on, and whenever you're ready to go ahead.
Yep. Okay. Um.
All right. Nicely done. Terrific. All right. Great job, Isha. Okay, this was sounding good. So can you talk a little bit about your approach in how you prepared this piece?
So first, it was like the basic like hand separate, and then what I kind of did is I tried to like go not as fast. Like I tried to start my practice like faster because normally what happens is um otherwise I go too slow.
Mm-hmm.
And also because I started and because like there's a lot of left hand right hand coordination, like especially on the
Mm-hmm.
second line and the fourth line.
Mm-hmm.
I basically like tapped out my left hand while I did my right hand, and then vice versa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And so this was sounding really good, really clear. Um, so tell me about what is tricky about keeping it in a fast tempo, if you can talk a little bit about that.
So there's this one part in the first line. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's really
Mm-hmm.
hard to do that fast, especially with the staccato.
Mm-hmm.
With a fast tempo, it's kind of hard to keep like dynamics and articulation, especially for like the soft parts. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so that was
Yeah.
one struggle at first.
Okay. So yeah, and one thing, what I'm noticing is sometimes it's actually tricky when you've got a lot of fast staccato notes.
Yeah.
Um, if you had to describe what kind of hand motion, so like actually, just physically, mechanically with your hand, what are you doing to get the staccato articulation?
So yeah, like for staccato, like balancing my wrist,
Mm,
or like. So that's one thing I have to do,
mhm.
and that's especially tricky when you're trying to keep it like smooth and fast.
Yeah. So that can be tricky. Where would you be trying to keep it smooth?
Like especially on this part, and then also
Yeah, yeah,
the,
yeah. That's tricky.
sorry. So I
Hmm.
think it's just yeah, like because
So,
there's this like,
mhm.
and it's like so.
Yeah, that can be pretty tricky. And vivace, what's 130? that's maybe 132. Yeah, so I mean, this is sounding good. What I wanted you to try is working on the staccato technique a little bit. So that's good, right? So bouncing, this is what we usually think of doing, right? If you've got a lot of staccato notes in a row, you think of bouncing your hand, right? And that'll probably be good for these in the thirds here in the left hand. That'll work. I want you to think about other things, and this is sort of like more the right hand. One other thing you might do is, in addition or instead of bouncing your hand, try doing a little bit of that kind of motion. You see what I'm doing with my fingers? So the whole goal with staccato, remember, is to leave, you're wanting to leave a little space between each note, right? So it's about how do I get off the key quickly after it makes a sound, right? So try this, and try this with your right hand mostly. Right, so that,
yeah, it's like sliding. It's really...
yeah, and just experiment. Yeah, experiment with kind of, in addition to doing your wrist, kind of like almost like you're plucking a guitar string or something, right? And that will be helpful. And well, we'll talk about that in a second. Can you try that with your left hand and your right hand, working on that kind of motion?
So like,
yeah. See, so sometimes the hand, right, the wrist motion can get a little heavy sounding, right? And some, there's a limit to how fast you can, dip your hand like that as well, right? So sometimes getting a little bit of that motion and will help. That'll help you do it at a faster tempo, and sometimes it helps you play a little more lightly. Although this part is loud, right? So can you play hands together for that first line one more time?
oh sure.
Yeah, good. And I know that's tricky. So the second thing I want you to try too, this has to do with the accents. Now, can you try, we want to get a little heavier if you can with those accents. So really, and that's so make sure you're almost, don't come too high up with your hands, but make sure you're dropping down onto those first notes. Right? Make from a little bit up higher, literally just let your arm kind of drop into those notes. See how that feels. Yeah, good. And that'll give you a more oomph to your sound. All right. Yeah. Yeah, good. Right. Did that feel? And so yeah, that extra finger motion. So now the last thing I wanted to try is in this second line. So this. So one thing you might do, if you wanted contrast in this section, you could potentially maybe like slur some of these. I don't know. It doesn't really, I don't know. We want it to be kind of, especially since it says it's Turkish March, right? We want it to be, I think this should stay, if not as sharp, make sure it stays a little bit staccato-y, if that makes sense. Can you try, and this is where that finger motion comes in, right? Like this with your hand, right? The more you pick up and drop, the louder it's going to get, right? So in order to stay soft, that's where you might want to work the fingers like that a little bit more. Yeah, right. So even, it doesn't have to be like intensely staccato, but I would keep it a little bit detached so you keep that march like feel. Yeah, does that make sense? And so I think adding some of this motion when you play staccato helps you control the dynamic a little more. Okay.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, this is really, really nicely done. It's just, just thinking about how you're going to practice it to really amp up the articulation and the dynamics. So that was really good. Yeah, nicely done.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. All right. And welcome, Bronson. Okay. Let me get you on here, Bronson. Okay. And so let's move to you. Are you all set up and ready to go, Bronson?
Yeah.
All right. And so just let us know what piece you'll be playing, and I'll put up your music, and then we can go ahead.
Okay. I'll be playing Red River Valley, the whole piece.
Oh, all right. All right. Great. Okay. Nicely done, Bronson. So this was coming along really well. Um, all right. So can you tell us a little bit about your experience now playing that? So what did you feel like went well, or did you find yourself having to adjust as you went along?
Uh, I think I think I got the tempo pretty good for like this first and second page, and I messed up on a few notes at the beginning, but I thought I was like mixing it up with the second page on how it starts like that,
Okay.
and I think I did good on like the ending of the last page.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought you were able to make adjustments at the very beginning. You felt more nervous, and then as you went along, um, you got more into it. So that's hard to do. So that's good. That's a great performance skill. Is getting more comfortable as you go along rather than just letting yourself get more and more nervous. So that was really well done. Um, any particular technical aspect of this that you found hard while you were preparing?
Uh, for the second page, I focused just more on the notes than adding all the dynamics.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, doing both, I sometimes like miss a note or go too high or too low.
Oh, okay. In terms of thinking about the dynamics and hands together and things like that. Yeah, so that's a good thing to think about because there aren't really, right, there aren't many dynamics going on in this piece. If you had to guess, right, all we've got is the forte, and then the piano at the end. How were you how were you thinking of starting, dynamically speaking?
I'll probably start off soft and then by like the third measure, get louder.
Okay. Yeah, so and there's two ways to plan this out, right? And this is maybe helpful for you too, Isha. Right. So when we think of music, right, you want to think sometimes of phrases, right? So say we're gonna play piano. A lot of phrasing, you naturally kind of want to do a little bit of swell. Um, right towards parts of the phrases. However, so it's good when you're planning out your dynamics, right? You would think of all of this happening probably like at a piano. Ultimately, we're kind of living in a piano space, right? And then obviously if you're going to voice, you want your melody to come out more, so your right hand projects more, even though your left hand has chords. Then right in measure 10, then you switch it up and your left hand has to come out more, which I think you did a great job of that. So the left hand melody really came out there, which was great. Now, so that's something to remember, I think, when you come here, right? And this sounded good. It's just something to think about that you could clarify even more. Now it's forte, right? But your right hand in this particular area of the piano, you've only got one note at a time, right, in the melody. So you do not want the left hand that's a little busier, right? Don't let that get too loud, because it's going to swamp these single notes in the right hand, right? Could you try? Are you able to try it right there at the forte, right before the double bar?
Yeah. So what measure should I start?
Yeah, measure 17, I guess.
Okay.
That sounds right. Yeah, you're good. Keep going. Oh, okay. So I think one thing I'm noticing here, I think you could go a little bit slower. Make sure that you're fitting dun 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 bum 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 bum. I think so. Remember, your left hand isn't 16th notes here; it's just 8th notes. You can go slowly, okay? Right. You can keep going in that same tempo you established since the beginning of the piece. That gives you more room when you go into measure 22, right? So then it's that way it feels like less of a gear shift there, if that makes sense, right? So can you practice just your left hand? Da-na-na. And let's see if we can make that a little bit more legato. I think that would help it be a little bit slower. Yeah. And it's the key is the first two notes. I think we're rushing the first two notes. Bomb, bomb, bomb. And I think if you could, let's see. So think of weighting down that first note a little bit more before you go to the next note. Bomb, 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 bomb. Okay. Yeah, right. Because then we start to feel, right, that pattern starts to feel a little bit different. Then you're feeling it sweeping up a little more than just bum 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 bum. If that does that make sense?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So that yeah. Again, this was coming along well. It's just I I just wanted to work with you on if we're polishing it even a little bit more. Okay. So does that make sense? Yeah, and that sounded a lot better when you thought of it that way. So and then obviously combine it with the right hand. All right, y'all. Thanks, you two. Great work. Thanks, y'all, for coming. Good performances, and I will see y'all next time we play. Thanks, y'all. Have a good